Better. I just finished talking about that, which is actually a good sign. If you haven't finished, you cover what you've done, because that's fantastic, and then you say, I'm going to add a branch here and a branch here and a branch here. But that's a really good mind map. Much better. Yeah, very good. How are we doing here, team? Very colorful. A colorful personality. Yeah, very good. You two have done well. In-depth discussion.
My maps here are a massive improvement on the previous ones. They are like flowers of intelligence. So to recall that, if you could be so kind as just to hold them up. Our video, help me there, will scan the flowers of intelligence of the group. Keep them up because the photographers would like to see. And I mean, have a look around yourself while you're holding yours up. Look at the mind maps that have been developed. I mean, they really are good mind maps. You know, and I hear some of you saying, wow, which is appropriate, isn't it? I think you deserve it. Now we are rapidly approaching the lunchtime break. This will be is the fruit of his own efforts. Because it was because of Gautam that this whole trip happened. It was a dream of his 5 years ago when we first met for this trip to happen and for you to be here. So you and these mind maps are Gautam's dream come true. So give him a big hand. All right, group, we're going to have our lunchtime break. During the break, I would like you please, unless it's ultra personal and private, to leave your map on myself. What about the future myself? You can do a mind map on your vision for your own future. If you have a wedding coming up in the family, do a mind map on the wedding.
You know, the guests, the music, the decorations, and increasing number of people are having a big mind map in their homes with all the wonderful branches and the pictures and the hearts and whatever. And they are totally delighted and relaxed and enthusiastic about planning the wedding. Whereas normally it's kind of, oh, have we forgotten anybody so-and-so? And what about the so-and-so? Do another post-it note, have another list. And everybody gets really stressed. But with a mind map, it's a wonderful, cooperative, creative, totally confident event. So we'll deal with all that when we come back after the break. I will commence it now, which means back at 1:15. I've signed the books up here, so please do collect those. And I will see you in 1 hour from now, starting now. Leave some time for some questions after the break. Some of you had a couple of questions, so now is the time for those. Yes, madam.
We always talk about creativity, and I'm not completely sure what you mean by it. So could you define for me creativity, please?
Mental literacy.
Creativity.
Creativity depends on the ready. Creativity is the measurement of your thinking, and it includes speed of thought, originality of thought, i.e., where other people have not thought of that idea. It includes fluidity, which is the flow of your thought. It includes flexibility. It includes the number of different perspectives from which you can see a problem. All of those are measurable, and all of those are trainable. It also contains other sub-ideas, such as application. Is the idea applicable? But it doesn't have to be applicable to be creative. And it is very, very trainable. You can note that everybody is born with a superb creative potential. Everybody. And it is either developed or not developed. And in most cases it is not developed. In school, you are not allowed to copy. That ruins creativity. You should not daydream. That ruins creativity. You are encouraged not to use colors. You know that destroys creativity. So we are taught not to be creative, not to be silly in class, not to do. How many of you doodle? Is that considered good in class or not? Absolutely not. You'll be delighted to know that the latest studies show that doodlers concentrate better than non-doodlers. So if you doodle, it's good. And you can consider the mind map like a very sophisticated, extended doodle. So Tony says, do, doodle, do. And when you're doing your mind maps, illustrate them, doodle in them, and it makes them even stronger and even more powerful as thinking tools. Let me actually just give you an example, because as you know, I write poetry, And one of my best friends was the former poet laureate Ted Hughes. And he used to lecture on creativity. And he would talk about the fact that memory helps you train in creativity. If you're using your imagination, using associations, which is what memory is, then your creativity will be greater. And he gave the example in terms of the number of different perspectives from which a thing could be seen, of writing a poem about a battlefield after the battle was over, and a battlefield 500 years ago where there were no guns, or just very, very, very elementary guns, but primarily swords and spears and arrows and clubs and so on. And so you have to imagine a battlefield between two armies, and it's all over. And all you see is dead bodies, dying bodies, and the carnage after a battle. So if you were asked to write a poem on that, and you're describing it, I want you to imagine how you would do that. What kind of poem would you write? What would be the perspective from which you saw it? What would your emotions be in it? What would your reaction to it all be? And how would you write it? Okay? Just imagine that. And now, very quickly, in your groups of two, but by the way, how many of you in here are poets? Good. 8 out of 100. How many of you are scientists? Well done. How many of you are artists? Of course. Let me ask you once again. How many of you have ever written a poem? You know, whether it was to your boyfriend or girlfriend or mom? Everybody. Oh, interesting. So how many of you are poets? I thought so. All right, so and how nice to think of yourself as a poet, because then you can write poetry. And it doesn't have to be Shakespearean, you know, or the level of the Vedic literatures. But you're starting, and you are a poet. You're a fledgling poet. You're an enthusiastic poet. You are a committed poet. So you're a poet. So I'd like you to describe to your neighboring groups of two just the approach you would take if you were writing a poem on a battlefield after the battle with all the carnage and stuff that's there. Okay? Quickly just describe how you would approach that, starting now. Creativity is the theme of the day, creativity, innovation, mind mapping. So you've now had an example for your own mind to think about writing creatively about a situation. How many of you took the point of view of either sadness or melancholy or horror about that carnage? Keep your hands up. Okay, so that's big majority. How many of you took a philosophical point of view? In other words, you know, unnecessary, could have, might, etc., etc. Okay, so a good number. Any other major points of view? Yes.